We've all had enough. We must rise again. I've been playing this game for a very, very long time. When I started, the economy was manageable. The grind was longer than most comparable games, by no means unachievable. There wasn't any kind of defined bias towards one nation or another. Every nation sat mostly equal, yet distinct, with few individual machines as outliers. I think some will remember the German P-47 and its affectionate nickname becoming a problem. Just a few months ago, we all rose up against the snail because they had chipped away at the economy bit by bit over the last years, resulting in an almost unplayable experience, with some players actually going into negative because of how horrible the SL earning rates were compared to repair cost. Since then, GAIJIN gave us a roadmap, a promise to make the game better, a promise to compromise with and even meet some of our demands. They realized, for a fleeting moment, that we had the power to sink or sail War Thunder, and they were forced to bend to be reasonable, to give us something other than another overpowered, overpriced premium. Now we come to another crossroads. GAIJIN has shown willful negligence towards a large portion of the player base in the name of profit. Issues with NATO vehicles are numerous, and have been for many years, but we've put up with it for one reason or another. Perhaps we thought GAIJIN would fix these issues too, since they were being amicable not but 6 months ago. But then there were the straws that broke the camel's back, Spall liners and Rank 8 tanks. Never have we seen a more blatant example of bias towards a nation than the introduction of Spall liners only once they added a Russian tank that is confirmed to carry one. All of this despite the fact that there are tens of NATO tanks, and even a few Chinese ones, that were known to have them in real life, and have been in game for, in some cases, multiple years. Add to this insult of trying to lie to us about the armor layout of not only the M1 Abrams, as has been in the spotlight lately, but most of the other big NATO tanks as well, such as the Leclerc, Leo 2A5, A7, Ariete Makarova 4M. Players have diligently posted bug reports and change requests to the forums, attempting to rectify the issues with these vehicles, armor or otherwise. Not all were well written, but a great deal had multiple reputable sources and good documentation that supported the need to fix the flaws of these vehicles present in-game, in hopes that GAIJIN would extend goodwill back to us after we had established a rapport with them after the last fiasco. These reports, as well as many detailing which vehicles had Spall liners, were posted to the forums, with fully expectation they would be duly considered and in many cases accepted. To our shock, the forum moderators betrayed us, shooting down report after report, oddly removing only the reports concerning NATO vehicles. The community lashed out, understandably, but they then went too far. Amends were being made and apologies given when all of a sudden GAIJIN themselves betrayed us not once, but 3 times over. They failed to accomplish their roadmap and have delayed features present on it multiple times with no reason to believe they won't delay them again. They stabbed us in the back by making baseless and poor research claims about vehicles the community had already done the job of researching properly, giving us statements like, "we believe," and "we don't think," while referring to known empirical facts regarding tanks like the Abrams, Makarova, and also the Leclerc. Then, they nerfed the Gripen into the ground, and refused to extend the BR ceiling to 12.7 for no reason other than money, and at best, sheer ignorance in relation to the Gripen controversy. We made them fix the economy. For the most part, the game can be played entirely for free within a reasonable time frame by anyone of any skill level. We made them fix egregious features in the first roadmap as well. Now, we must make them fix the game and the gameplay itself. For too long, GAIJIN have ignored calls for BR decompression, especially now that the player count can so easily support it. For too long, GAIJIN have pandered to the Russian tree, giving them experimental and prototype vehicles and equipment that the Russian armed forces have never even seriously considered fielding, and implementing them with wildly unrealistic specifications. For too long, GAIJIN have ignored reports on the forums about poorly implemented or outright incorrectly represented NATO vehicles, aircraft, and tanks, and for too long we've wallowed in the same game modes, the same bad map design, the same horrible excuses for not making the necessary changes. I say it's time for another revolt. I say it's time to make them listen again, to make them realize once more who actually controls the future of this game. Make them remember who this game is for. I call anyone reading this to take down and repost or post a new negative review of the game on Steam and everywhere else you can. By the way, I do not endorse this. I do not call you to boycott the game, for that will do nothing unless we all do it. I do call you to make your voice heard anywhere GAIJIN still allows it, and I call you to not give GAIJIN a cent of your hard-earned money until they have regained our trust. When that happens is up to you. Do not sit idly, do not shrug and say, there is nothing I can do. Anything you do helps, even doing nothing if you do wish to boycott War Thunder. We are not alone. We are hundreds of thousands, even millions, and we will make them fix our beloved game once and for all. The first protest was caused by economy issues and the complete lack of care by GAIJIN regarding the topic. Nowadays, it feels GAIJIN still doesn't care about player input, instead fulfilling Monkey's poor wishes every once in a while to say they're doing something. We need to remind them not to take their revenue and player base for granted, and that they need to listen to us for advice rather than following profit alone. For the players, for the game, be it boycotting, whatever form it takes, we need to act. Let's unite! What I've been reading from Reddit, Steam posts and others is each nation main, besides one, seems unrealistically weak. From the Abrams missing their realistic armor Spall, the Macavers missing their Spall, Challengers and Leopards being misrepresented, Leclercs and so on, fill in your own blank. Instead of us internally fighting with each other, going, no, you didn't get shafted, I did. Let's instead unite. GAIJIN hopes that we'd all be too focused to argue with each other than actually do something that hurts their bottom line. Similar to when Russia invaded Ukraine, they hoped that infighting in NATO would paralyze them into not doing anything. Instead, NATO banded together, and to this day are still more united against Russia. Let's borrow that idea. Every single main of every nation needs to stand united with their issues, from Israeli mains all the way to American mains. Let's hurt them where it hurts. They've claimed that they deserve the labor of love from Steam, yet half-baked everything the community actually asked for, while denying other parts. Let's show them they're wrong. Let's stand united as a player base with our concerns and issues and present them to GAIJIN and then stand firm and not budge until either our concerns are met or War Thunder doesn't exist anymore. Fixing a few NATO vehicles is not a solution to the game's issues. The main problem of War Thunder in its entirety, and the reason why this community had to be created in the first place, was the heavy opinion and narrative control on the main War Thunder Reddit sub, the Steam discussions, and especially the forums. It is unoriginal, dirty place used by GAIJIN to create an environment on all these channels where they can filter out the part of the player base that would complain about obvious Russian bias, bad and shady business practices, and abuse of mod tools such as bans, topics, closure, and deletion, etc. It's used by many smaller game devs that aren't honest and want to control the narrative over their games. The biggest example would be the part of the player base of the failed game The Day Before, which has believed right until the very end that it's a real playable game as good as the trailers made it out to be. Another example, Starfield. Bethesda keeps claiming the game is great, despite the overall opinion of it being pretty boring and just worse No Man's Sky. They are gaslighting the players, and they have their own group of players also supporting every stupid decision Bethesda makes. But it gets so much attention, the gaming community would stone them to death if they started banning people for bug reports and ignoring them. It's a commonplace practice in the industry, commonly used by the likes of Nexon, Electronic Arts, or Ubisoft at a much larger scale than GAIJIN does it. That's exactly the problem. The game isn't that popular for it to be visible. Smaller bloggers, magazines, content creators may report on it, not enough to damage their flagship title. The point of all this complaining about GAIJIN should be transparency. If they keep filtering people out through banning them, closing their posts, and making them shut up and just play, bad changes and stupid business options will keep happening. Because they have enough bootlickers on their official and unofficial channels, and even in this community, that will defend them until death, that they don't need to raise a finger. They're not implementing the promised changes, and they're pushing Russian bias, because Steam has deleted most of the reviews from the review bombing into GAIJIN's favor, and the game is rated positively on Steam. That's the only thing they care about. Very rarely someone might try to free-to-play title on Steam if it has mixed reviews or worse. And I want to mention one last thing. That should be clear to everybody. GAIJIN is, was, and will be a Russian company. The CEO is a Russian billionaire. The upper management is Russian, and the only reason they're officially based in Orban's Hungary is because it allows them to dodge any sanctions that could arise from what Russia is doing. Previously, they were based out of Cyprus, most likely to dodge taxes. If you claim otherwise, then you are just gullible, and you just don't deserve to play a better game than War Thunder in its current state. And I hope you waste your entire paycheck in this slot machine. Dear War Thunder pilots, tankers, and sailors, it's time for us, as a united community, to address the ongoing issues with the Abrams, Challenger 2, Leclerc, and Ariete regarding their armor and specifications. Many of us have expressed our concerns. Alas, the snail keeps ignoring our calls. GAIJIN Entertainment recent updates have left some of the most played vehicles in a state that doesn't align with historical accuracy or balanced gameplay. The Abrams, Challenger 2, Leclerc and Ariete deserve the attention and respect to befit their real-world counterparts. Additionally, newly added fighters in top tier are not balanced. There are still existing problems regarding them. In order to force the snail to make the game better and fix these problems, we should do a community strike yet again. Boycott GAIJIN, hit them in the wallet. GAIJIN ignores multiple sources regarding the armor protection for the Abrams, and even states the round the M1A2 SEP V2 uses would make no difference. I'm not giving any more money to GAIJIN, and I would love to see this winter event sale be their worst sale ever. So USSR gets the T80B with thermals, because one prototype was made, and the T80U gets thermals even though the T80UM got thermals, not the base model. But US can't get DU hull on M1A2 and onwards, even though GAIJIN themselves admitted there are at least 5 M1A2s. What is this favoritism BS? Remember back when the KVT was added, and members of the community raised the concern that the vehicle was not completely authentic, as the KVT Vismod was only ever applied to the M1A1? The rationale from GAIJIN was that the regular M1 worked better for gameplay, and while the Vismod wasn't completely authentic, it was technically possible to equip the kit to a regular M1. To be perfectly clear, I'm fine with this rationale, but I was laughing a lot when I read about the lack of DU in the M1A2 SEP V2. GAIJIN acknowledged that it was definitely fitted to vehicles and possible on a technical level, although what specific variant is a little fuzzy. They also previously acknowledged the Abrams at top tier are significantly underperforming, hence the reload buff. If only there were an armor package that could make the tank less vulnerable and potentially help their win rate, and that it is technically possible to install. Dear GAIJIN, there are 2 birds perfectly lined up in front of you to resolve both of these simultaneously. How do you not see this? Every update, you bitterly nitpick various changes because you want the vehicle you play to play better. You guys really think a couple hundred grown-ass adult corporate workers working on site and remotely all over the EU, Russia, UK, Arab Emirates, who have probably never played War Thunder in their life, have some sort of personal bias to make certain vehicles in a video game OP? Do you really think some senior strategic lead is sitting down in a meeting, ready to drive his team of data scientists and developers to make the Abrams bad? Yeah, bro. 50-year-old corporate career Ivan with 3 kids and no interest in video games definitely wants to sabotage his job and alienate his Western players because he thinks the Abrams stinks. Yeah, Sarah from the Quality Assurance Department definitely wants to make insert XP50, Jumbo, Tiger 2, SU-27, Huama, RU-251, KV-1B, Leo 4070, Type 81, Term 3, HSTVL, etc., 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 OP, because she hates certain other in-game nations. Yeah, you're definitely not delusional. You realize you don't have to be an ultra-nationalist locked to playing a certain tech tree, right? If you want a vehicle which performs differently, just research a vehicle which performs differently. If you're jealous of an OP premium, work for a few hours at a minimum wage and buy it. Since 2012, I can't count the number of times I've switched nations because some cool new vehicle has popped up. I thought, hey, they look fun. I'm gonna play. Unlock it and use it because it looks fun. All the way through the top tier in Italy, Germany, Russia, Japan, China, US, Sweden, and Britain. I've always found numerous OP lineups. It's unironically a skill issue. Nah, just keep posting brain-dead nationalist drivel and echo chambering from other like-minded people who just can't accept that their single unlocked tree they compulsively play isn't the best at all stages of the game. Good dev teams already know what the most outspoken stakeholders are, the people you definitely don't want to listen to, so good luck talking to a brick wall. What in the cinnamon toast fuck is this? Guy Jingles claim, M1 Abrams, Main Battle Tank Owner's Workshop Manual. This publication does not directly indicate that the M1A2 SEP or M1A2 SEP V2 had depleted uranium armor added to the hull. Only general words that the changes achieved on the M1A1 SA were implemented on the M1A2 SEP V2. In addition, this source is secondary. Other independent secondary sources are also needed. The fucking workshop manual in question. Protection against spalling is provided by a Kevlar liner. Beginning in 1988, the M1A1 tanks received improved armor packages that incorporated depleted uranium mesh in their armor at the front of the turret and also at the front of the hull. This source is from a blurb on the internet. Do we really need another boycott? Gonna throw in some personal rant. The last time we boycotted, there's a dedicated group organizing a no-play day. And at the no-play day, there was more players than the last day. And that group fell apart with hypocrisy, raids, and server nuking. Sure, GAIJIN listened to players at that time and made a roadmap. Big achievements, but let's not forget what had happened previously. Also do note that calling for a boycott mostly coming from a loud minority. The loud ones right now are US mains, mostly calling for a buff on the Abrams. Second in line is Sweden mains with the Gripen nerf? Yeah, sounds bad, but boycott feels like an exaggeration right now. Glad to know the developers have zero credibility and have zero concerns for historical accuracy. Just admit that the game does not care for accuracy and all decisions are made by developers with a strong anti-American bias. Still insisting that the Abrams doesn't have Spall liner? Lol. Lamau? Even. So the devs really think that a laughable 1-second reload increase will suddenly make the SEP V2 a worthy addition to the 2A7V and SDR V122 Plus counterparts? This is a joke, right? Seeing the lol pen, the Abrams spends most of the battle with a dead loader anyway. Okay, this does very much read like an early April Fool's joke. Lamau. And I see you're completely satisfied with the current effectiveness of Macavers, CH2s, and Arietes too. M1A2 tanks and M1A1HC need their DU armor in their hull and turret, with proper turret ring modeling the most. The Dart with over 700mm of pen and maybe even 800. Classified still? I haven't found the actual stats in real life. The DU armor in the turret would make the biggest difference, and it would stop the ease of breaching the Abrams gun. And the hull should have its spacer do armor structure. Being able to pen the hull is impossible in real life. Not even its own round can pen there or on the turret. Italy's top tier is far superior to the US. Everyone shits on them because they don't have them or play them like they're Russia. The armor isn't that bad, it's extremely derpy. That makes their tanks survivable. That's a hot take. Why doesn't GAIJIN just claim all stats are made for balancing purposes? I mean, it's a game at the end of the day. What's the point of arguing how the tank should be in-game, just for how it is in reality? GAIJIN, cherry-picking, and also misinformation. Gonna keep this short, but why are we increasing the weight on M1 tanks gradually, but not increasing the armor? Where do you think the weight is coming from, GAIJIN? Thin air? Crew gained a few tons overnight? Do you think engineers who have spent 30 years in their craft making modern tanks wouldn't think to make a new or upgraded the suspension so that it could hold more armor weight from the depleted uranium inserts? Yet, we are keeping thermals on a T-80B, a variant that never got thermals. Or making new Russian tanks, the 2S-38, a prototype not even in service, and which there may even be more than one of in existence, is getting pushed to Russian main lineups in numbers. How about the T-90M Spall liner? That would be classified information by the Russian government, not public information, and yet you won't put it on the Abrams. But it's also classified? Why not talk about the R-27? A missile that has been fired dozens of times and only ever got one confirmed kill, while the AIM-7M has got over 24 kills and has a roughly 70% hit rate. Yet the missiles act the exact opposite in the game. I could go on, sources for everything here, and more has already been provided countless times in forums and bug reports. At this point, it looks like they want us to leak classified documents. But who am I to say? Right? Call of Duty, but with tanks. Every other game mode but Ground Forces seems to have a real feel to it. Ground Forces is very much unplayable at high tiers. Everyone camps, peeks, shoots, and hides. Then we have the guys that just show up and camp spawn from ridiculous angles. It's not fun anymore. There has to be something done to Ground Forces, or I'm just gonna wait for the next best thing that comes out. This game promotes camping only in ground battles. Everything is too fast and unrealistic. Feels like a Hollywood film the way people play. There has to be a plan, strategy, a new game mode of the sort, and get rid of everything else. I personally think the only way to better Ground Forces is to make longer games, and to make longer games you need larger maps and realistic maps. By that I mean in the real world. Militaries wouldn't send tanks to a location if it would deem any armored vehicles useless because of its geographical features. There's a YouTube video where a real tanker tried War Thunder and said the maps in-game are locations where they wouldn't send armor just because it would be useless due to high points and disadvantages like too many buildings without proper recon. Next would be taking fuel into account. Fuel would make a player choose how much to drive and how far they should drive, making them less prone to drive to the other side of the map to farm kills. Maybe after securing an area, it would provide fuel. I don't know, I'm just throwing ideas out there. Next would be a game mode that would mimic a real-life armored battle. Forget A, B, and C point, we need something more real. Maybe a player versus AI. Where both teams on their way to secure a sector need to watch out for ground troops, militia or whatever it may be, that plant IEDs or shoot rockets at your tank, and you have to watch out for mines on the road, etc. I ran out of ideas, but that's all I got. I work a 9-to-5 job and want to come home from work and enjoy the game. But then I come across people who don't work and just make the game boring by killing me for ridiculous angles. War Thunder has so much potential to make something great out of ground battles. If it doesn't, soon enough, the player base will start to drop when the next best thing comes out. I'm just here with an idea to save the game's future. Hopefully some devs get a chance to read this. How to fix the M1A2 SEP V2. Just had the prototype M1A2 SEP that had DU inserts in the hull. Since you refuse to believe Abrams has DU inserts at production level, just add the model that you yourself stated existed, GAIJIN. 5 prototype models with DU inserts in the hull. Simple as. War Thunder is no longer a realistic game. The game is moving further away from realism and more focused on balancing. The recent updates and changes / nerfs additions to the USSR tech tree has just proved again that a nation in the tech tree is being pushed with almost propaganda levels, while everything else is being nerfed. If the approach is purely for balance, sake, then Italy should receive some desperate love, and so does Japan and GB Airtree. The SAF F1, CZ-AZ-BZ, the SAF Mirage 3, and SAF Atlas Cheetah can be added. And the odd vehicle through the other trees. Sadly, only USSR is getting buffed. Is it us, the players' fault that a tech tree is subpar and not able to perform against other nations? What is the point of continuing a grind if additions are not accurately represented? End 2024, we get the M289A3 rounds with 500mm worth of pen. I think it's time to remove those Spall liners, at least from hull sides for all Leopards and STRV. They are close to impossible to incapacitate with one hit, and they have all the time to turn and one-shot you. Adding such a thing to already survivable tanks is a terrible error. Top tier is completely unplayable now. All the games end with them in your spawn in the first 2 minutes because you can't destroy them reliably. As always, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. Go and hug some people, forget about War Thunder for a bit, and just enjoy yourselves. And if you can't hug anybody, air hug, I suppose. But look after yourselves. Hope you have a wonderful set of holidays. Peace be with you. Bye-bye. I'd like to thank Schnitzel Stroker, Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, B. Young, Opium Prime, Masonocrat, Lafouche, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.